Hello, everyone. Is that time again? Sunday, and time for the Fausty Witches, and only one of them's bothered to turn up yet again. Oh well, you'll just have to put up with me, won't you? So today, going along the Harry Potter theme, because at one point we did have a Harry Potter theme, you may or may not have noticed in a series one, we thought, what better way to clickbait, get more views than to put in things that are searchable on the YouTube, the Facebook, the Google, all of that. And today's little clickbaity title is the Department of Mysteries, I do believe. The Department of Mysteries was this department of the Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter. I was going to say Scooby-Doo then. And it's very interesting. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Harry Potter Department of Mysteries, and then we'll compare it to the real life Department of Mysteries. Chris, did you know there's a real life Department of Mystery?
What, the Illuminati?
No, we don't talk about them. We're talking about the higher up, better educated, and less well mannered people. The Department of Mysteries in the Thoth Witchcraft Empire, Chris, is what we're talking about. Right. So Department of Mystery is really interesting. I was reading on the Harry Potter Wikipedia thingy to see if it's actually relevant to what we're talking about today. It turns out it kind of is. So the first thing is that the Department of Mysteries in Harry Potter are part of the Ministry of Magic, but older than the Ministry of Magic itself. Second thing is that it's all super confidential and secret, which you'd expect, but also it's not beholden to any laws, Chris. No mundane, muggle, or magical laws, which I thought was quite interesting. And let's be fair, Department of Mysteries there is essentially a research and development department. It's like some Uberly. If the Ministry of Magic is like the government there, then the Department of Mysteries is like some kind of, Black Ops research and development experimental center that no one's supposed to know anything about. Is that stuff? There's places like that in real life, obviously. But what about in the magical world? Not the Harry Potter magical world of J.K. Rowling's Ed. I mean this magical world that we live in. Because would you not agree this is a very magical world that we live in today, Chris?
Very.
Maybe not as magical as it was in the past, but it's still up there, you know?
It's still got some magic, that's a start.
It's still got some magic left. We're here. I mean, what more do you want? So, research and development department. If you was to say, what would you like to do? Right? Do you want to be minister for magic in the real world or in the Harry Potter world? Do you want to teach at Hogwarts or anything like that? This, that, and the other. I personally would say no. I don't want to be a minister, the one in charge, member of parliament, king, queen, whatever of a magic. Not really interested in that. Do I want to run a school? Oh, we've got to be careful what we say here, Chris. Possibly not my thing that I would really hope for in my career. No, not something that really gets me up in the morning. What does really I find it very exciting would potentially be to run a department of mysteries, which basically means research and development. So for me, the most exciting and interesting part of what we do at Thoth is the money that we use, your money, we use to go and do occult experiments and the like, and perfect things and help people on their development. Yes, but there are a lot of people out there that are doing occulty experiments, and I'm not talking about the bullshitty occulty experiments like trying to make John Dee's fucking Angel Enochian system work. I'm talking like proper mysteries. None of this has all been done thousands upon thousands of times before, with good results or bad results. I'm talking about like actually exciting things, Chris, that people do not seem to be doing because, Chris, ain't nobody wrote a book about it, right? Would you not agree it's a wonderful thing when you see someone with some gumption, some magic, and an itch they cannot scratch in terms of trying to actually answer a question. Because there's a very interesting question that we could ask, we could pose. It is a great mystery, right? And it's not the mystery of Kenneth Von Friendly's Basic Witchcraft 101. No. It's not anything about that. It's more about like the big questions in life. Enochian not mysterious for you. No, I don't consider the Enochian system to be very mysterious. I think that it is I wouldn't say 2-bit hack, that's rude, isn't it? Someone that dedicated themselves to more of a left brainy field of magical development and could not get it to fucking work properly. That's what I would class Enochian. In terms of Von Friendly's, Kenneth Von Friendly's Basic Witchcraft 101, Chris, I don't know if this is someone trying to troll us. They trying to troll us? Are they trying to get people to... Is that an actual thing? I don't know. I cannot copy and paste it. But either way, the Department of Mysteries idea, I would say the equivalent would be research and development department. So to research something and then develop things based on that research, right? Inventing is what I see. It's crazy as magical inventions and stuff. From what I can tell, yes, there are many crazy maverick inventors and explorers in the occult kind of realms. Most of the ones that you hear about tend to be, I've got this book or this system that was given to me, I'm going to try and make it work. I.e., what I see most people doing is, I want to see if magic is real. I want to see if I can get that old Keir Solomon and make like the demon appear into a full physical manifestation in front of me so he can grant me our monies or something, right? That's what I'm seeing as occult research and development. It doesn't really cut the mustard because it's not... Is that research and development? I don't know. It kind of is from on a personal level because someone's personally researching, developing it, but is it really adding to anything? This isn't like mysteries that have not been solved. It's not like there's not huge amounts of information and people alive that are actually doing that work, working that system. It's kind of like when you see, I don't know if you saw, Chris, there was an old television advert where it would be like, oh, Kevin first discovered Dublin in 2004. Well, Dublin was discovered a long time, but obviously Kevin, his first time of visit in Dublin was in 2004. Did he discover it? It depends. This is what we need to clarify, what we are considering with the speech, with the words and what they mean, It's one of those things that is kind of like, well, what are we considering to be mysteries? What are we considering to be research and development? So from what I've always said, and the approach we've kind of taken is taking that kind of beginner, intermediate and advanced level, which is kind of we've almost become famous for slagging people off using that system, being very harsh. I don't think it's very harsh. Beginners trying to cobble together a system of magic to understand it. That void, that abyss, warp drive. Yeah, if you've crossed that, you've now got to a foundation level in magic. Okay, if you've read the 101 Wiccan book or an introduction to magic and it says 101, blah, 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 no, you haven't got a foundation in magic. Foundation in magic is the foundation in this system, creation, we'll call it creation, to be able to manipulate and understand creation, to stand upon it and conduct like you would in an orchestra, right? Next step would be intermediate step. And not many people actually get a good, decent, solid foundation in magic. You can go on Instagram, TikTok, which I'm now on, looking at the TikTok, Chris. There's not many people with a good, solid footing and foundation. They're slippy sliding around everywhere on the TikTok, not just the dancing videos, right? But the next step, the kind of intermediate level, is like taking what you've done, taking this concept and actually now starting to push into intermediate things, into things that you've actually got to scratch your head, you've actually got to do something. It's actually somewhat dangerous. Not dangerous for you. Magic's always been dangerous for you if you're doing it right, because you're pushing, trying to do things that you don't know whether you're capable of. Not things can end up fucking up and messing up, right? We're more talking about dangerous for, the foundation that you're actually stood on, therefore dangerous potentially for a lot of others. And well, others, I don't just mean this universe, potentially other universes as well. Okay. And then we get to the more advanced things. Advanced is like, well, there isn't anyone else doing this. There's no one else doing it. You are trying to attempt to do something that you're not going to be able to go through any kind of cool magical forums on the astral world, let alone the mundane world, and find other people that are probably doing this specific work. I'm getting some stuff. So Kenneth on Friendly, No Thoughts Witchcraft Shop, joined in my school a few years back. They sent a group friend request. I don't know what that means. Cremation and manifestation, left hand path. Masters of our own destiny and fate. This is one of those bots, Chris? Is it a bot? It doesn't seem to be making a huge amount of sense. Maybe I'm not reading it properly.
Words aren't your specialty.
Words is not my specialty. I'm quite good at bending them, though. Quite the bender of words. And you've lost your words, which is hilarious, given that this is kind of like a to and fro interview format, and you cannot speak. You've been bound.
I can speak better than I did last week.
That's still not good enough, though, is it? Are you going to be able to do a lecture? Can you lecture about your thoughts on Kenneth on Fiendlies, Friendlies, Friendly, whatever the fuck it is they appear to be trying to sell? Yeah, no? No, yeah? I don't know. You keep breaking up.
I'm assuming.
Oh, he's going to... Oh. You're assuming.
I'm trying.
You are very trying, I agree.
I'm trying. So I'm assuming that knows from connections. I don't know. Does it matter?
I don't know. Right. So there's a Kenneth on Friendlies group on Facebook. Just checked. Thank you very much, Helen, for that mystery that I asked Chris to solve. So, Chris, if you are there and you can hear me, I don't know, because you kind of stick over that, or you're being really, really good at doing that kind of meditation where you just stay extremely still and don't move. What are one of the great mysteries of the universe and the world and such that humans have that we're apparently not supposed to know the answer to, but yet most occultists generally could probably tell you? Like meaning of life, all that sort of shit. Come up with some nice mysteries.
Time is an illusion.
Is he there? Is he not there? I don't fucking know. Don't know if he's there. That is a mystery, isn't it? Don't tell me the Mesopotamians have got him again. We've had a lot of trouble with them there lately.
Can you see me?
I can kind of see you, but you're stuck. Yeah. So no, I don't think we can see you at all. I think we can hear you though. No, I think he's gone. Looks like he's gone. It looks like I get to take over. So in terms of mysteries and stuff like that, there's these big questions. They call it the big questions. In the UK, there's this TV show called The Big Questions, which in theory is interesting and good because they ask a big question, or normally it's like two big questions, in front of an audience and some so-say experts or kind of people that have been on television before. And they ask things like, what is the meaning of life? They ask political questions. They ask questions that there isn't technically supposed to be like one specific right or wrong answer, and people get to hash it out. Now, I say it should be good. the problem I always have with these sorts of programs, TV shows and that, is that you get someone and you ask them, oh, should we build this railway going up there? And they get less than 5 minutes to answer the question, and then they can't go back. Or someone from the audience asks someone a question, and then the person doesn't fucking answer the question, you know, is one of those things. So mysteries and big questions, let's see if we can do a slightly better long form version of that, bearing in mind Chris probably can't even hear what I'm saying at this point. And talk about mysteries, one of these big questions. So Chris, are you there, caller? Are you there? Say something. He's not there.
I can hear you. Just tell me you can hear me.
Oh, I can hear you now. Right. So Chris, big question. Okay, it's one of these ones, and I hate to give it away. It's one of these ones that a lot of paranormal investigators make a lot of dough. Okay, helping people not answer the fucking question. Right. So the bigger question I have for you, this big mystery, is what happens when you die? And I don't mean you personally, I mean generically human beings. Is that a mystery? Is that a high enough level mystery for that to
I don't know
be
if you can
a
hear me.
mystery that the Department of Mysteries Research and Development would want to have a little look at? Because it's a question that a lot of humans seem to want to look at. That's why they pay 60 quid to go on a paranormal investigation night to listen to some idiot's stomach rumble and think his grandma that they lost. So tell me, how would you, if you were in the department, oh, he's fucked off, Annie. In the Department of Mysteries, in the Research and Development Department, how would you go about researching that? Okay, interesting. I think we've lost Chris. He's disappeared, so that means I got to fucking talk to myself. Done it. Oh well. Yes, Michelle. Those M's, they just won't leave him alone. They're like midgets, like what you get up in Scotland. They just won't leave you alone. So there's quite a lot of things that would be considered mysteries and big questions. What I try to get some people to do, because there's this big thing, okay, with people that we mentor, where we try to say, get them to do a project, right? So when they're working towards something, trying to accomplish something, trying to learn something, trying to master a skill, what it is, you'd always get these certain people, okay, that they say, well, I don't know what I want. I don't want anything. I don't know what to do. I don't know what, just give me something. And I say, write down kind of 7 to 10 big questions or big things that you cannot know the answer to. So there's no way of knowing the answer to it, or what people would consider not to be, a real yes or no answer, and explore it. Use that as a way to explore, because you need to, if that question that Catherine Veronica has apparently answered, life, death, ego, death, question mark, question mark. If I slit your throat and you died, and the doctor declared you dead, and then we cremated you, that sort of death, Catherine Veronica. Some would consider it to be a violent one, and if it was in fact in a spooky old pub or house, no doubt the landlord of said spooky old pub or house would probably market your murder at the hands of me, with your throat being slit, and say that it's now haunted because Catherine Veronica got murdered there. But how would one, so basically progressing down the occult magical path without something to aim for, how do you decide what you're going to do? And these people which are adamant that they don't want anything, or don't have an interest in any specific area of magic, they just want to know everything, they need somewhere to go, they need somewhere to start. One of the big ones is I like them to write that list, because it's very interesting to see what is on that list. Some of the big ones on the list are things like what happens when you die, what is time, what is magic, what is it? Okay, things like that, big questions that really make you think, interesting. And you have to develop a way of exploring that. And that's where the interesting thing comes in, because this is where the people that will get somewhere within the cult magical path, and people that won't. The people that do get somewhere actually seriously think about it and think, how will I explore this? okay, what happens when someone dies? The scientists, they can't really give me an answer. Does anyone else tell me? Well, a bunch of religious people say one thing, this person says something, and then there was something about some karmic will or something. I know it involved me being told I'm going to be a slug in my next life. Something like that, you know? But in terms of exploring, how do you put together a way of exploring that? That's what proper occultists, I would say, should be really good at. That is what, if you want to get anywhere in life, in occultism, in magical life anyway, you need to be able to think logically and put together some kind of way, structure of exploring, of answering those questions. Yes, you'll need to master certain abilities and certain areas of magic in that in order to get there. But ultimately, the first thing you need to do is you need to think about where you're aiming for. Because the skills and things that you need to develop and your current thought process, if you're thinking about death, you're thinking about the thought process of what do I think, what do I believe at my core, what do I experience, all of these things, adding those all together and then coming up with your current idea of what that is, and then thinking, well, how can I explore that further? Okay, psychics, they speak to dead people, yeah? Okay, they can speak to dead people and mediums channel dead people and that kind of thing. I suppose I'll work on that ability so that I can go and speak to a dead person. Speak to a dead person, you find they're fucking useless, right? Most of them. Like, might as well visit a care home. At least you're doing some good in a care home because those fuckers are still alive. They'll appreciate you more, even though they don't call you your name. They think that you're like some person that they knew from like 50 odd years ago. Who knows? But things like that, you kind of think logically about it. You think, oh, okay, the dead people, they don't really know a lot, and they're kind of in some kind of, I don't know, 1 minute they're kind of there, the next minute they're kind of not there. It's all very much a bit of a weirdy thing. Reminds me a little bit of a snow globe when I'm interacting with it, when I'm feeding it, when I'm working with it. It's kind of like shaking that snow globe and the snow in it's going up, but then it just kind of settles and a bit dreary and dead. And then you start to study it, and then you start to think, okay, why is that? Why is that? Why is it that one minute this spirit can do this thing, next minute it can't? All these various strange things. Questions beget questions. Is that the right phrase? I think that's a quote from someone. But essentially, what you want to do as an occultist is you have this big question or these big questions, and you seek to answer those questions. But you're not going to be able to answer them like a philosopher by just thinking about it. You need to explore it. And current science doesn't have basically units of measure and microscopes and things that you can generally see that give a very strict yes, no. You need some other tools in your laboratory, your crazy alchemical laboratory, in order to explore some of these big questions. Psychic ability, psychic development is one. Tinkering. Can you stop someone from dying? Can you pull someone back from dying? It used to be, well, actually, no, you can't do that. When they're dead, they're dead. But now, let's be fair, you can stop someone's heart. Chris, you're from a medical kind of background. How long can you resuscitate someone for after their heart stops and their brain starts to go all gooey and the oxygen don't go there? It's a lot quicker nowadays, or you can let more time go now before you resuscitate them than like a couple of 100 years ago, innit?
I can't remember figures off the top of my head, Liam. But yeah, it's not.
I'll Google it.
You wouldn't want some troll to go and turn around and say, "Oh, it's this." God, recall that.
How long should you continue CPR? No, it's not that. Oh, no longer than 30 minutes? Oh, I wasn't told that on my first aid training. Don't know. We could look it up. I can't be bothered to, though. I think it's like 2 minutes or something in it. I thought it was like 2 minutes because it's the oxygen problem, isn't it? There's no fresh oxygen going to the brain. The brain's the problem. Brain's the problem with many, I'm starting to notice. We're not allowed to continue CPR, I'm presuming, for longer than 20 minutes. That's quite interesting. All the people from the medical backgrounds are chiming in now. I'm talking about if the person's heart stops and then they get the paddles and that. Or if we were to stop Chris's heart right? If we were to say something so shocking that his heart stopped beating, yeah, and then we were to wait, and we were to say, how long can I wait? And then successfully resuscitate Chris, bring him back, things like that. But anyway, I don't know how much of that you listened to, Chris, but we were talking about big questions, we were talking about mysteries, and we were talking about what happens when people die, which don't give them the answer to that, because they got to work that out for themselves. They got to discover the answer themselves. What were big questions and mysteries and such? Okay. Why is this world so evil? Why is this world so evil? Is this a good world? Is this a bad world? It seems to be good sometimes and bad sometimes. But then at the same time, some people have really, really bad lives and nothing but bad and evil and nasty stuff. And then some people have really good lives. I mean, what up with that? Is that mystery worth exploring?
No, it's all a matter of perspective.
Oh. What is that phrase? When in Rome?
Do as the Romans do.
Some people will see that as a mystery, but they aren't necessarily interested in exploring the reason behind that. They're more interested in, oh, this person over there, they've got crippling pain from some illness. I don't think it's right that they're in pain. We should do something to heal them and to help them and basically make them more happy than sad. So they're kind of looking at it as we need to address the issue that's causing this pain, as opposed to is pain pleasure, all that kind of thing, in disproportionate quantities. Is it right? Is it just? There's ideas from religious people about there's some people, I think the Dark Pastor spoke about this at one point, about is God good or evil? If God exists and the earth is really fucking horrible, and there's crazy ass bugs and things that burrows into the eyeballs of children, this must be an evil world, therefore the thing that created it must be evil. But I mean, I would disagree, but then I would look at it from a bigger picture of lots of lifetimes, lots of universes, lots of good things where there's pure pleasure, pure pain, all of these kind of things, they all weigh up, just because this one's got a mixture of everything. You go to a seafood restaurant and you're like, I don't like seafood. Well, you fucking came to the seafood restaurant. Well, I didn't know it was a seafood restaurant. Well, that's your fucking problem, isn't it? You did know it was a seafood restaurant. You looked at it and you saw all the signs. You've just forgotten outside. As soon as you walked through the door, you forgot that you were in a seafood restaurant on autopilot. Yeah, that's me, bad life, lol. Bad life. Oh. Deanna got a bad life?
She's had a lot of shit to go through.
If Deanna's got a bad life, then is that proving what I'm saying? And the justness and unjustness and that.
But these are bullshit humanity phrases. That's the problem.
Yes, humanity. I'm glad I have none.
All of this comes down to that, which is this concept of humanity, and therefore something should be humane. So, but does it really matter ultimately?
It depends on your point of view, and this is the thing which I don't think that, again, I use this all the time, and I say, well, it depends on your point of view. But when I say your point of view and your perspective, I don't mean your morals or ethics. I mean that level of where you're looking at the fucking problem from. How high up the tree are you going? Because when you go up further up the tree and you look down on all these mundane problems and shit, kids dying of maliciously horrible, painful things, you kind of think, it's for their own good in the long run. The long run isn't thousands of years. The long run's kind of measured in eternities, greater and lesser eternities to a certain extent. So perspective isn't about moral perspective for me, or moral ethics. It's more about at what point do I look and I think, oh, this is kind of worthwhile for you, or it kind of doesn't fucking matter for you. Because down here, it really does matter. Down here, if I get out of bed and I unplug the lamp to plug my iPhone charger in, and I leave that fucking plug on the floor, and then I get up in the middle of the night and stand on the plug. Very painful. At that point, I really do feel like pain is a real issue, and that having a pretty nice life here is really important. But then when I go further up, connect with other aspects of me, sit on other thrones, let's say, I kind of think, not really a big deal, not really a big issue. Don't know if that makes sense to people. People that have been in the same situations, they've done a little bit of climbing, they probably will understand. Other people will think Liam's not making sense. Has he been drinking? Sunday afternoon, isn't it? Chris, you going to name us a mystery or a big question or something that people have asked you in the past? Clients, mundanes, whatever.
I don't know which ones you've already answered.
Well, we've only got through two because obviously I've been rambling, and I suppose 15 minutes for each one. So one for death and one for pain in the life, pain in the world and suffering and stuff. The why.
You know,
Any
I'm
big
not.
questions?
You know, I'm not very good at this because they're all small questions to me.
No, but one's from the perspective of the people that ask. So if you, because you've met loads of people that have now embarked and have met you seeking to embark on a magical path, and some things that triggers their interest in the occult, in magic and witchcraft, and that have been trying to answer a big question, or research and find out great mysteries and stuff.
Well, the big ones that they feel that often come across my desk are things to do with fate.
Fate. Oh yeah, that's an interesting one.
That one's always a big one for people about what is fate, what is destiny, does
Mm,
does it have any impact? And then that's where the obsessions with past life regression and twin
mm.
flame and all this.
Twin flame. Twin flame. That is an interesting one. So fate and destiny. So would you consider fate and destiny to be the same thing?
I don't, but that's normally because I have to explain it to laymen.
So the layman, when they come to you and talk about that, what would they be asking? Would they be asking for destiny? Or would they be asking for, or I'm assuming what they're asking is, this bad things that happen in my life, can I stop that? Or do I have to go through that?
Mm.
Or the second thing, which I see a lot, is, can I blame my actions and choices on the fact I was always supposed to make that mistake? I was always supposed to do that. I don't want to hold myself accountable. I want to just say, well, it was always going to happen. So please, Chris, tell me it was always going to happen, and then I can feel better about myself.
Mm. It's the universe's fault.
Yeah, it's the universe's fault. I mean, yeah, sure.
Mm.
I got a nice light. Look, there we go. Bit
I don't
more
know.
of a.
The majority of them come down to that of kind of not understanding any kind of difference between destiny and fate, and kind of like trying to understand what is avoidable and what is unavoidable.
Mm,
What a lot of people are after. Um, Ultimately, as soon as you get to that kind of intermediary level, you finish foundation, it no longer matters. But the you just think, okay, well, if I drop dead now, it's fine. I'll come back and I'll do it again.
mm,
Whereas other people get a bit too tied up in, you know, is this happening to me now? It becomes a karma thing. It becomes this thing about, is this my fault or can I blame the universe? You know,
mm.
and I want to blame somebody, and they can't quite decide. But again, blame, it's another one of those humanity buttons that blame isn't a thing elsewhere. So why it matters so much here is beyond me. But it's that damn humanity.
So if someone was to want to go and explore these kind of big questions, concepts and stuff. So let's say something like death, time, fate, any of these things. These concepts are very often personified, and there are gods and goddesses and deities associated, spirits and such associated with these big concepts, these big questions. What I think would be quite interesting is your take on summoning death to answer questions about death, or going and meeting the fates, whether it's worth doing that, or whether if you manage to get through to the fates, they would just laugh at you and say, it's not worth my time talking to you lowly human about this, you know, type thing. It's like that thing is like, do you go to the department head because they have the power in that department to give you information about it and to tell you yes or no and help you with your work and stuff like that? Or do you have to, you know, slum it and go through the system? I know you wouldn't, but
No.
the general person, is it something that people should be thinking, do I need to, or is it worthwhile trying to catch the attention of some big thing out there? Time, if I want to explore time, this concept or this idea that you hear about Father Time, is he like a god or something? Can I summon him up? The idea of that, do you think that sort of thing would be worthwhile in your experience or not?
It really depends on the person. Ultimately, there are easier ways to get that information without actually going to speak to those things.
So the go-to methods, the simplest methods for most beginners, I would presume that based on my experience, getting detailed answers to questions, big questions from powerful things that govern over those things that are related to questions, you tend to only get if you are capable of understanding them. If you're capable of understanding them, you'll get welcomed in and you'll be seen as, you know, something powerful enough to understand and wield the power of that spirit, deity, titan, whatever the fuck it is. You know, you either have that or you don't. When you meet it, you either have that or you don't. What it is if you don't have that, then the deity, spirit, whatever in question isn't really going to be all that interested in you and isn't going to give you the information or do the thing you want it to do. Therefore, it's a case of learning and gaining that knowledge and authority from somewhere else, taking the slow route as opposed to the kind of direct VIP section for a staff, I suppose you could say. But what is the slow routes? What would be the slow routes for a lot of these questions and how you would explore these questions? Time. Where does time end? How would one go and explore that? Are we actually even real?
Yeah. But ultimately, what I find is people are generally drawn to the questions that are useful to them, generally speaking. I think the problem is lots of people expect to be given answers, and I don't think most people are willing to do the work necessary to figure that out. Depending on how you've been equipped when you arrived here, there are some things you should just know. And that's not just me being, you know, super witch. That's kind of me just saying there is a natural understanding when you are becoming in line with this particular universe. So looking at it, certain things should be obvious to someone that is capable of seeing it. And that shouldn't require, in my opinion, masses of training. Why I don't consider these to be big questions, and why we both foundation.
You're an accomplished, like they say, they call you a super witch for a fucking reason, right? But 90% of people out there ain't a fucking super witch or an occultist with any level of real understanding or experience or ability. A lot of people are just coming to the path and trying to do their best. Obviously, there are far more people that aren't coming to the path or trying to do their best. They're just basically, they like the aesthetic and want kind of ritualistic tattoos that they can't have. Oh my god, the tattoos. There's always the tattoos, isn't it?
My point is, Liam, my point is most people have been here before.
Mm,
As far as I'm concerned, you've already had at least one go at this, and probably not in a necessarily recent time, and therefore should have a better understanding of this than they present with. And that's
they should, but they often don't. There are some, particularly in traditional witchcraft lines, which they think, I know best. I'm doing this, I'm doing it my way, and I'm going to do it the same way for a lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And they're the ones that end up putting that block there because they need to progress in a slightly different way. But they've then they've removed the barriers. They've got enough power and energy and stuff to actually remove and tinker with the barriers. But at the same time, they've basically made it harsher and worse on themselves because they've actually done that. And some of these little signposts, let's say, that were in the way to point them in the right direction have now been obliterated because they thought, I know what. Signpost there on that big rock that's a mountain. I think I'm just going to get some dynamite and blow through it. Oh, look, there's a crater. I'll just blow through, all that kind of stuff. I've seen that happen quite a lot, actually, in some traditional witchy kind of lines. But that's like the opposite of essentially what you're talking about, because there are a lot of people that will be able to pull on when they have access to it, to pull on the knowledge. But there are others which, at a higher level, that level is where the kind of, I suppose, a level of the ego is shared. And that it's like that niggly point that they just cannot let go, that they need to do this thing, they need to do it in this way, that they're not able to see the greater picture when they're at that distance up. So at the distance which you would be at perhaps when you're talking about this looking down, or someone would when they're connecting all of these different lives together and stuff, past, present, future, whatever, and seeing the bigger picture, they've still kind of got the blinders on, some people, which is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And quite rare, I suppose, but very obvious when you see it.
What's interesting? Oh, what's interesting for me is kind of figuring out where those people are at, because ultimately all of them are obsessed with this concept of I need to learn more. And you're like, you do, but only once you've remembered what you've forgotten.
Yeah.
There's not enough emphasis on remembering as there is, I must learn this. And once I've learned that, maybe it's because it's our schooling system in the West or whatever, where we learn everything for a test. And therefore, everybody's just trying to learn so they can pass the test. And I find, particularly with a lot of witches that we come across, even the ones that are quite naturally able, again, they go back to this. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do the other? But not from a holistic approach of ticking all the boxes. If that's what they've heard other people can do, therefore they must have to do it too. When really, what you should be, in like with the PT work, I guess, you should be your only opponent until you've got to that kind of foundational level. At which point you should then be pushing beyond that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I can understand it, because you talk about education system and that kind of thing, and there being tests and stuff, but also you need to think in terms of, a lot of people haven't gotten when they're starting, they haven't gotten to that ability or haven't seen that they can connect to things and just download the information. They don't have to relearn things. What I do struggle with is when there are people that are aware, well, you must have done this 1,000 times fucking before. Why are you trying to learn this again from scratch? And they know that it is somewhere within them or an extended system or an extended part of them, part of a greater version of them that holds the information, Akashic records type of thing. But they still don't go for that. They don't think, wait a minute, rather than trying to learn this and learn this and learn this and dedicating time to this, time to that, time to the other, why don't I just go for the big one where all of the information is? That I find very strange, that people don't think, I really want to get to that. I really want to get to that level where the information is, because they can. And most magical systems that are put in place in order to help people progress magically, so whether it be magical schools and mystery schools and occult lodges and that kind of thing, that are dedicated to actually assisting people do that. That's what they do. It is a plotted route to get you to that place, you know. But for the everyday person that's unaware of that, then they are stuck in the situation of, you're human. You've, as far as I'm aware, have always been human, and you've always learned by doing and learning the human way. And the ones that go a bit somewhat askew, which almost takes us back to Enochian to a certain extent, is when some people think, and I've seen this a lot in occultism from a magician's perspective, is, well, I'm a human, I'll just get a spirit to tell me the answer. I'll just get a spirit to do it for me. I'll just get a spirit to do this or show me. And, well, let's be fair, that doesn't always end up very well. Look at old John Dee. A lot of people don't get, A, they don't speak to something that can help them. B, they might not be speaking to the spirit that actually they think they are. And C, spirit might be a bit dodgy, you know? There's dodgy people online trying to tell you all sorts of stuff, trying to tell you all sorts of stuff. Can't trust Dr. Google, and you can't trust every spirit out there, even if it's a famous one in a grimoire. And yet that is still, despite I've said to people, you know, because you've been there with specific people, why are you doing that? Why are you relying on the spirit to tell you the answer to that question? And you know that sounds dodgy, and yet you're still going to do it because the spirit told you to do it. And there's bunches of people that are telling you that's fucking stupid. You know, but the spirit told me to do it and it knows more. I'm telling you not to do it. You're telling yourself not to do it. Another person's told you not to do it. Why are you so addicted to doing this stupid thing? Oh, should I ask another spirit? Or I think you should ask why you're such a fucking idiot. But there we go. I don't want to go in on a specific rant about specific people.
For me, and I know you give the traditional witches as a great example of this, and I don't mean PKTWs. You know,
No, not the post Caldens. We're talking pre Caldens.
There's still a part of me that struggles with, and that works on a premise that everyone had a teacher. And that's how it's designed, is that you know, there was a master and apprentice, and one surpassed the other. Not to go too Star Wars Sithy there, but in that kind of and to assume that everybody needs a teacher. Why is it they only ever look for one in a book or in the flesh?
Or in the spirit.
Or in a particular spirit. Like,
be your own teacher.
You know?
Be your own compass.
Because if that's what was required for magical mastery, and full understanding and mastery of mystery, then wouldn't all of us have come from some kind of hereditary tradition? When actually 90% of the witches I've ever met have no knowledge of any kind of tradition that they've come from. They might know of, you know, dodgy family members that were crazy because they knew things they shouldn't know, or kind of mental health kind of stories, or mom was great nan was a midwife, those sorts of stories. And I've got family herbal or whatever. Then I would kind of understand why everyone is so obsessed with the idea, and aren't therefore looking. That sounds really corny, but I was going to say, rather than looking within, kind of, like I said, going back to what I was saying before, of working on remembering. Because I don't know, but that's just me ranting on a Sunday when I'm tired and irritable and sore. But ultimately, I don't understand it. Like, I get that the way we're taught in this world by teachers, therefore you seek one anytime you want a new skill. Because it faster is normally the idea is I'm going to learn this quicker from someone who knows it better than me. And if I know someone that is really, really good, then I'll learn it even quicker. Which, with the Patreon is what we provide. What we provide is we are able to fast track people through that process.
But the fast tracking takes place in a different way than they think, because the way they think is the way they've been taught by the education system, which, my better teacher teaches me where the answer is in the book, or tells me this or the answer to that, when actually all we do is we help people be more efficient with how they teach themselves.
Exactly.
And that's the key, because it's always about teaching yourself at the end of the day and progressing yourself, rather than relying on other people, because other people are going to be really shit at teaching you. I'm sorry, but they will be really shit at teaching you. You need a great, and I mean truly great system, create a truly great system of you being able to teach yourself, and then you could potentially teach yourself anything. But it's getting that system in place, which is different because everyone's different. Everyone learns differently. And when you're taking something called as magic, that's
what people forget, is how different. Like, it doesn't matter if you grew up in the same household, you are not going to have the same perspective as the other person. Therefore, it's going to be incredibly hard for you to find a mentor that's going to tick all of those boxes for you, and them having to live geographically near. Like, and I think that's where people get too tied up with the old fate and destiny part of waiting.
So
and Merlin.
We've got less than 10 minutes left. So the definition of mystery, this is something to remember. Something that is difficult or impossible to understand or explain. That's what's so cool about mystery, okay, and occultism. Because within the occult, it isn't like back in the day where you've got science. There isn't really like specific science. There isn't religions, religion, science, art, all of that sort of stuff. Magic, it all melded together. We used to kind of meld together. Yes, there are different people and organizations and things that kind of learned certain mysteries or were interested in certain mysteries and such, but it was a little bit less separated than a lot of things are nowadays. Mystery is, and what occultism is generally, is the difference between science anyway, is with science you're often going to learn principles that are have solid ground and solid foundation. You learn physics, you learn chemistry, it's all built upon something, and it's a system, and it's a yes or no to a certain extent. Then you get into things such as theoretical physics, which then starts to bridge more on occultism, and then that occultism thing of science, religion, that's where the magic is, in the middle. The magic is the blending of this. Here's religion, here's a summary story that you memorize and learn, and you don't understand it, but it kind of gives you the rough right answer. Kind of religion is kind of like a superstition. Throw salt over your shoulder, or use this for that. It's like, well, you've got it half right, you've got it almost right. You're heading in a kind of right direction, but you're only heading that direction because some other fucker told you and you were told to memorize it. So with religion, is kind of like that snapshot clue from a specific point of view in a lens. With science, is kind of a case of you've got to build up your stack of cups quite a lot in order to get to the moon. Whereas occultism is that breach, that area of true mystery. Because if you're trying to understand and learn something about the metaphysical properties and the secrets of plants for medicinal use, a lot of that would be phytotherapy and science, okay? But when you look beyond that, and you look and study things that science doesn't really understand and doesn't have a way of actually studying it and researching it and stuff, because that has not been discovered and understood yet, then you're normally dealing with the tools themselves. The occult side of things is actually, with science, we have some level of understanding, we have tools in which to use to explore further. With occultism, there are no tools. You've kind of got to build your own, and people seek out these occult tools in the forms of abilities and actual, sometimes physical tools, in order to get them to do and produce magical and supernatural effects, which they can then try to research and copy. Oh, I've got a ritual. Will it make this thing happen? Oh, look, it did. How did it work? I don't fucking know. Let's tinker about a bit. Oh, look, I used a different athame. I used a bronze dagger this time, and it did not work. Instead, I got this other thing. A bit like the old chemists that put that liquid with that liquid. There was always like a green liquid and a blue liquid in a weird shaped glass. Bang! You know, oh, that didn't work out very well. So yeah, it's kind of like mystery is what we do as witches, magicians, cultists, and that. Oh, mystery is what we do. The difference is are you the sort of person that then takes what you've learnt from trying to discover the mysteries of whatever it is you're looking at, and then create some kind of practical use for those? For example, if you're trying to understand the mysteries of death and you start being able to speak to dead people, are you going to put that to good use? Are you going to charge them monies for connecting people to their dead people? You know, like what is it, 118 you know, that kind of thing. Are you going to do that? You can if you want. That is an ability. You now use that in a practical setting. If you're going to research and understand the metaphysical secret properties of rosemary, the plant, and you are discovering that and using that in some kind of herbal alchemy or something like that, is there a practical use for what you've learned? You know, can you potentially use it to create some kind of, I don't know, thing that helps with vascular dementia or something? Can it be done? Can it not be done? A lot of people in an occult perspective, often they reach a level, a obstacle, and that obstacle is very often when they cease with the practical, and then it always becomes purely theoretical, and when it's theoretical, then philosophical, and then turns into religion. You see, when the practicality kind of gets taken out of it. So it goes from, okay, I can do this, I know I can do this, and I know that I can do this because I've done it there. I'm going to use this skill, I'm going to use my knowledge here in order to make that thing happen. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I suppose I don't know it, but I suppose that might be the case, or I suppose that might be the case. You use your knowledge and the foundation to create a theory, a educated guess, but then don't go and then prove that, or go and step through that door, or do that practically, magically speaking. And then that then opens the realm to a lot of dodgy things, because I've seen that with occultists particularly, that become more, they start off doing actual magic and then become more armchair magicians, just thinking about the theory and not actually doing at the level that they're theorizing. You have to be practicing magic on the level that you're theorizing to get to the next step. Otherwise, you will only ever go in theory forwards, and you'll never truly understand it and know. And the chances are you'll also be wrong if you're just going by theory and philosophy and such. But there we go. We're out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Chris?
I think I'm going to try and add one more thing, which is, I think going on that kind of vein, is that people get too obsessed with, I want to know everything. But they don't break it down into, well, what subject do I want to master first? They just kind of go, well, no, once I know everything, I'll make a decision. And you're like, that's not how it works. This is a reason we talk about foundations. You build a foundation in order to build other things on top of it. Or to build, complex structures don't happen because you skip the foundation part. And kind of, when we say foundation, it's not an insult. It's a goal. You should be at that point of kind of going, okay, I feel solid enough in all the basics now, and I can move forward. And that what's that phrase? A lot of people are. A chef friend used it the other day, and obviously there's variations depending on what your work is. But he said, as a chef, I'm only as good as the last meal I served. And that idea of you should always be pushing forward, and you should always be building on what you've created, and what part of your foundation you're on. And I think that's a big part of it. If you've suddenly decided, okay, I only like doing hoodoo charm bag spells now, when you were building universes last week, then there is a thought process there of kind of going, why is that change there? And it's a change one that you need to do something about. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw in that, because we have a tendency to talk about foundational as basics, which it is.
Foundational is what I would say 90% of people have no interest in metaphysics and occultism and magic. That remainder 10%, out of that 10%, 9% are probably pre-foundational, which leaves a small fraction that are foundational and have reached a foundation, and even smaller percent that are actually doing something intermediate or advanced level. And there's really very little interaction between those, because they just can't tend to, in all honesty,
tolerate.
I don't want to put it in terms of you can't stand the people, but as a magical practitioner, if you're a magical practitioner that's listening, how well do you relate to your average everyday person? Okay. You probably don't relate all that well. If you're walking the path of magic and seeing all these things and doing all this work, you're probably not going to relate that well or have much in common with the everyday pleb that watches Coronation Street or Emmerdale or Home and Away or whatever the fuck it is, that don't really do anything, because your universe is so much grander, stranger, and you're up to so much more interesting connections that you have with things and are doing, that you find it too difficult to deal with this person. It's the same with foundation to intermediate, with that kind of thing. Yes, people on a magical path, but their paradigm that they live in and the things that they do and work and how they operate and things are on a very, very, very different level. It's why you don't tend to see you don't really see adepts in occult lodges that are publicly open. Maybe one or two people form small little operation based kind of communities and stuff, but generally speaking, it's not. You're not going to go into a magic school and you're going to find someone that's operating on an intermediate level. You probably won't, realistically, as people at that level. Like they say, like attracts like. But anyway, we could go into that in another more detailed Fausty Witches, because it is essentially a lot of people would consider it to be bitching because it doesn't sound particularly nice, but I mean, it's the truth. When you do money magic, you always use a sigil. Decide not to. That doesn't work to you. Expect it. Do you go back to using a sigil? That works. Am I wrong to go back?
No, what you're talking about there is re-stepping. So you shouldn't go back to something specifically because it's a one-trick pony weapon where it only works that way. If that's the case, then you should be pushing. If it's a particular kind of working, that actually you're kind of going, okay, well, I know I get the best results if I do this. That is an appropriate way of discernment. If you're going back in order to go, actually, I can only do it this way, then yes, by all means, get the work done because witches need to get paid. But also, you should be thinking, why couldn't I do it the other way? Because you should be able to do it any which way.
Yeah, so for general spell casting, if we took like a money magic sigil or something like that, I'd say try, if you're interested in sigil magic and you need a little bit of money, why not try creating a sigil, money magic sigil? Do it. If it works, don't leave it there. If it works, think about how did that work? Then go and do, next time you want some money, or whether you want it or not, just do it to see if it works. Go and do some more money magic, but don't use the sigil this time. Use a different form, because what you're doing is you're progressing and you're filling in your weaker areas, and it will grow your level of understanding. If you become a master at sigil magic, then you'll only be able to use sigil magic potentially, and being able to see, you know, if you've used that and you've really mastered sigil magic, maybe you have an understanding of how you interact with the sigil and how you create in that, and you could then go and use something else instead of a sigil. But what I tend to see more often is people stick to what they know, people stick to what works for them and have no interest in furthering their understanding, and therefore there are gains left on the table, or there is knowledge and power left on the table, which they need to have looked at it from another angle in order to have got. But there we go. We are completely out of time. We've run over a little bit, but thank you everyone for listening, and goodbye. And Chris, get better soon.
I'm trying.